Now here's a typical question on working with discrete random variables. We've got a discrete random variable x has the following probability distribution. And we've got several parts to this question then, A, B, C and D, where we've got to first of all show that k equals 0.1. Part B, we've got to find what is often called the expected mean, E of x, then in C, E of x squared, and in part D, the variance of 2 minus 5x. So you might like to pause the video, have a go at these questions here. You can always fast forward to the work solutions for any of them. Okay, well let's see first of all how you go about doing part A, showing that k equals 0.1. Well, you should be familiar with the fact that the sum of all the probabilities in a probability distribution should total 1. So on that basis, if we add k, 2k, 3k and 4k together, we get a total of 10k. So we've got that 10k must come to 1. And so obviously if I divide both sides by 10, we end up with k equaling 1/10, or in decimal form 0.1. Okay, so that's part A. Now we move on to part B, calculating E of x, the expected mean, as some questions will say. So how do we work out E of x? Well, you should be familiar with this result, okay? It is equal to sigma, the sum of each observation x multiplied by its corresponding probability. So I'm just going to write that for short as sigma xp. So when we do this particular problem, we therefore have that E of x is going to equal the observed value. Let's work our way systematically along the top row. We've got 1 then for that observed value multiplied by k. K we know is 0.1, so we've got 1 times 0.1. And then we've got plus 2 multiplied by 2k, 2k being 0.2. Then we've got plus 3 times 3k, so that's 0.3. And then finally 4 times 4k, so that's going to be 0.4. And if you work this out, you get that it comes to a total of 3. So the expected mean, or E of x, is 3. Okay, we now move on to part C. Now in part C, we've got to work out E of x squared. So how do you work out E of x squared? Well, again, this is something that you should be familiar with. It is the sum of sigma. This time it's the x value and it's squared. The observed value is squared, and then you multiply it by the probability, and you repeat this for each of these columns here and total them. So when doing this one then, we've got that E of x squared is going to equal, well, the first one will be 1 squared, so we just write that as 1 squared multiplied by its probability, k, so that's going to be 0.1. And then we just carry on and we just do 2 squared times 2k, so that's going to be 0.2, plus 3 squared times 3k, which is 0.3, and finally plus 4 squared times 4k, which is 0.4. And so work that one out and you find that it comes to a total of 10. E of x squared then. Now for the last part here, D, let's just put this down here that this is part D. What we've got here is the variance of a constant minus 5 times the random variable x. And for this one, you should be familiar with this result here, that if you're working out the variance of, say, a constant plus, say, or minus b times a random variable x, then this is exactly the same as the variance of the constant plus b squared times the variance of x. And it doesn't matter whether you've got a minus or a plus, it will always be a plus result. But the variance of a constant is always 0, so this just ends up as b squared times the variance of your random variable, x in this case. So again, a result that you should be familiar with. So when we do this particular part to the question, we've got that the variance then of 2 minus 5x must be equal to the variance of the constant, which is 0. We've got a minus here. It always gives us a plus result. We square the value, the constant here in front of the x, so we get 5 squared times the variance of x. Now the question is, how do we work out the variance of x? Well, again, we should know this result, that the variance of a random variable x is always equal to e of x squared minus e of x all squared. So we can use this result because we have got the results that we found up here. So if we carry on with this, this particular result is going to be e of x squared, which is 10, minus e of x, which was 3, all squared. Well, we've got 10 minus 9, which equals 1. So therefore, what we have is that the variance of 2 minus 5x then must be equal to 5 squared, which is 25, times the variance of x. We've just worked out the variance of x, 25 times 1. So in other words, just simply 25. Okay, well I hope that's given you an idea over this part. Okay.